To be honest, I've always been a little less evolved. I don't wanna rock.
Y'all need a pilot?
Je t'avais retrouvé, je te jure.
T'as dit quoi?
Je t'avais retrouvé.
Tu dis pas, d'accord? Tu répètes plus jamais ça de ta vie. T'entends? T'entends?
Arrête.
Hello and welcome to our cinema show here on Arts 24, where film critic Emma Jones is taking us through the week's new releases. Hi, Emma.
Hello.
But first, here in Paris, the Lumière Academy, made up of foreign journalists working in France, handed out their prizes this week, and one film dominated those awards. Emilia Pérez, from director Jacques Audiard. It picked up Best Film, Best Directing, Best Screenplay, Best Music, and Best Actress for Carla Sofia Gascon. Audiard's now the most decorated filmmaker by the Lumière Academy in its 30-year history. Well, let's get on to those new releases now, starting with a film featuring British pop star Robbie Williams, who, having described himself as something of a performing monkey, he goes one step further, has a CGI chimp play him in this musical biopic Better Man. Emma, tell us a bit more about this very quirky film.
Yeah, indeed. It's really interesting, isn't it, that there are, that famous people do like to have their story on screen, but sometimes they're quite removed from it. And I'm thinking of that Piece by Piece documentary about Pharrell Williams quite recently, where he was represented by a Lego piece.
Of course.
Yeah. So I think it is just because there's so many music documentaries and biopics out there, it's difficult to make them stand out. This one, though, really does stand out. So you have the Greatest Showman director, Michael Gracey, in charge. Robbie Williams is executive producing and narrating the film. And he and British actor John O'Davis actually plays Robbie Williams. But then, of course, the magic of motion capture technology makes him into a chimp. And I think that, yet again, Robbie Williams stands out from other humans. And I think this also helps convey the essential loneliness, I think, of the man. And that's part of the film.
Okay, well, as you mentioned, the sort of miracle, the tech miracle of the CGI effects create that chimp. And they've been nominated for a BAFTA award for that work. Let's take a look at Better Man and hear from some of the people behind it.
This whole film is an impossible dream.
Am I here? Can I be here? Even though I was there when most of this was filmed, I still don't understand how it was done.
That's how he sees himself. He sees himself as a performing monkey.
The film is magic.
We usually do stunts and fights, and then we were thrown into dancing apes.
It's really just not how you would shoot a visual effects movie. Usually you try and make it as sterile and controllable in post as possible. And this was not that.
So that chimp effect that we see there, does it manage to stay the course? Does it manage to carry the whole film, really?
Yes, it does, because it could have been just a gimmick, but it really is an arresting feature of the film. Though there are a few times, and I'm thinking particularly of an amazing song and dance scene of Robbie's song Rock DJ on London's Regent Street, where you think, I kind of just really want to see Robbie Williams himself here. Another thing I like about this film is it is a warts and all portrayal of Robbie Williams. It doesn't shy away from his story. I mean, after he quit Take That in the 1990s, he seemed to be out in the wilderness for some time, and even after he found solo superstardom, there were times that he seemed quite unhappy. So this film does really go some way to explaining this. He was seeking the love of his dad, who's also a singer, but he does have the unconditional love of his grandmother in the film, played by Alison Steadman.
Oh, the older loving grandmother trope in a biopic. So obviously with all those British cultural references, probably one for the British fans, but not sure how it will go down with an international audience then. Well, moving on now to Flight Risk, directed by Mel Gibson, who's apparently one of President Trump's newly appointed ambassadors to Hollywood. Well, this film stars Mark Wahlberg, Michelle Dockery and Topher Grace. It's mainly shot in a confined space as it takes place in a small aeroplane flying over Alaska. Let's take a look and hear a bit more from Mark Wahlberg too.
I never flew a fugitive before.
Government witness, not a fugitive.
Ready to go?
Is it always this bumpy?
You get used to it. Moretti's very disappointed in you, and he wants you dead.
Oh, shh.
I haven't played a part like this in quite some time, and I've always been a fan of A movie with a great villain, you know, I think is what separates films, good ones from great ones. And those characters driving the film and the more memorable, you know, villain roles. So for me to be able to do that and pay homage to my dad and Robert Duvall with the haircut and everything, it was a lot of fun.
So is it just me, or does this seem like quite a lot of fun?
I think you'd be right, especially as Mark Wahlberg also shaved off half his hair for the role, which you will see in the film. You know, there was a recent report about how streamers are accused of making things quite easy watching at the moment, so people can scroll through their phones. Well, I'd call this Flight Risk an easy watch, though of course it's not for a streamer, it is destined for cinemas. Now, Michelle Dockery, not Mark Wahlberg, really gets the best of this film, I feel. She really does the best she can with the part of a US Marshal who's escorting a witness, also played very well by Topher Grace, into protection. Her plane is overtaken by Wahlberg's bad guy character, and and then of course things go. Fortunately, his hairpiece falls off quite quickly, and we see that he is bald, and he goes full pantomime villain. We're not quite sure what the psychology of his evil is, but he's clearly really enjoying himself. He's even licking his lips, you know, as he's thinking about committing physical violence.
Okay, so the film sounds quite funny, and apparently a lot of the promo they've been doing has been quite entertaining too. Very light-hearted tone here from Mel Gibson.
Yes, it is a very different kind of tone for Gibson. I mean, Flight Risk is not going to be like 2006's Apocalypto, which I think is one of Gibson's best films and nominated for several Oscars, or indeed 2016's Hacksaw Ridge, which won a couple of Oscars, as I remember. So I think the premise of it, being in a confined space, you know, for Dockery's character, it did have the basis for a suspenseful Hitchcockian type thriller, but I think Mel Gibson has instead gone for the full popcorn vibe.
And sometimes that's what you want at the cinema. Well, next to this week's big French release, this is The Quiet Son, or Jouer avec le feu in its French title, directed by the Coulin sisters, Muriel and Delphine, and starring Vincent Lindon. Lindon received the Best Actor prize for this film at this year's Venice Film Festival for his work.
Yes, he did, and I was there to see him get it, and that was a lovely moment because he was clearly so happy about it. Now, I've never seen Vincent Lindon actually being anything less than brilliant in any work he does, and he is outstanding in this movie, although he is closely followed by a young co-star, Benjamin Voisin. You may know him from Summer of '85, Lost Illusions, those kind of films, and really, they're really excellent as a family. Vincent Lindon plays Pierre. He's the father of two sons. The sons are growing up. One is off to university, but the older one, Fuz, seems to be getting in with a gang of radical right-wing thugs, and Pierre is not happy at all.
Okay, well, let's see a little of that film. This is The Quiet Son.
C'était un enfant comme un autre. Si je refais l'histoire dans ma tête, 1000 fois, je me suis dit qu'elle aurait pu terminer autrement. Qu'est-ce que j'aurais dû faire? Je savais qu'il tournait mal.
I think this movie, because he respects the audience, and people can think after seeing the movie what they want to think, and maybe one people, two people, three people will change their mind, and it will have been a good reason to have done the movie.
Vincent Lindon speaking there after the Venice win about the film. Now, what I find interesting about this is it's not often you see a family drama where a single father is bringing up sons, and there's a real tenderness to Lindon's performance because, you know, Pierre is father and mother to both boys. I feel there's an underlying social commentary to the film as well. It's set in eastern France, and the idea is that Fuz is finding it really difficult to find work, and that contributes to his radicalisation. Just to mention one electrifying scene, I feel, in the movie where Pierre he ends up accidentally at a skinhead rave. Now, there's a drum beat to that scene where the Coulin sisters really convey that, you know, all this kind of thing is tribal behaviour and it's instinct on the part of Fuz, and that is what I find unique and outstanding about this movie.
Sounds very delicately done. Okay, well, finally on to Bonhoeffer, Pastor, Spy, Assassin, or L'Espion de Dieu, as it's known in French. This is a film about the highly respected German theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who came out courageously and publicly against the Nazis and who was executed by them a few days before the end of the war in Europe. So a very long-awaited biopic about a remarkable man then, Emma.
Yes, absolutely. I'm not sure what he'd make of the title of the film because it's slightly sensationalist, I suppose, drawing on maybe some of the more exciting aspects of his life. He was indeed arrested by the Nazis for plotting to overthrow the government. Was he closely involved in the assassination of Hitler? We don't know. Now, this is a film directed by Todd Komonariki, who also was the writer of the Tom Hanks film Sully, and it stars very talented young German actor Jonas Dassler. And I think the film does have an overt Christian message. However, the heart of the movie is really about the church's failure to stand up to the Nazis and Bonhoeffer's rejection of Nazism, which is very steadfast and really quite impressive. I'd have preferred a German language film, to be honest, rather than an Americanized version, but still worth a watch.
Okay, well, a historical detour, but perhaps a little lacking for you, Emma. We'll leave you with a clip of that take on Bonhoeffer's life and you can see what you think. Otherwise, thanks for the roundup this week, Emma, and thanks to you at home for watching. Do check in with us next time here on Arts 24 for more movies, arts and culture. There's more news coming up just after this.